We are living in a computer-programmed reality, and the only clue we have to it is when some variable is changed and some alteration in our reality occurs. We would have the overwhelming impression that we were reliving the present, déjà vu, perhaps in precisely the same way, hearing the same words, saying the same words. I submit that these impressions are valid and significant, and I will even say this: such an impression is a clue that at some past time point a variable was changed, reprogrammed as it were, and that because of this an alternative world branched off.
Welcome to the Monday edition of Free Association Radio. This is Robert Phoenix, and I apologize for the delay in getting this up and running today. I had a really hard time logging onto Skype through Blog Talk and had to shut down my computer and restart it, and in hopes that Blog Talk would recognize that I had Skype up and running. It did not on a number of occasions, so I had to improvise and actually pick up my phone and call in to my own show, which is what I'm doing today. So I guess where there's a will, there's a way, and I've never done the show like this before, where I'm actually on my phone but also using the Blog Talk studio. Kind of unfortunate that I had to do this. So I apologize for the delay, but we're here now, and I hope everybody is having a decent Monday. Boy, man, I got to tell you, Saturn was extremely close to Earth last night. This is one of the closest points of Saturn being at Earth ever, or towards Earth, or near Earth ever. And it was a very intense night. I got to tell you that. Very, very intense night for a number of reasons. And one of the strangest reasons being that I came home after hanging out by my pool up here and having a little barbecue. I came home, and I come up to my door, open my door, and there are a couple things going on. My computer's playing. Now, I had left my house that day at roughly about 1:45. And now this is a little bit later, and my computer is on, and it hadn't been on before. And I was looking, well, there are two things that were happening. One is I was looking for a plug for my phone, and my phone was dying, and I have it's one of those USB plugs, and it plugs into another plug that plugs into a wall. So I knew exactly where both the plug and then the cord with the USB extension was. It was in my bedroom, which is where I charge my phone up at night so I can use it as an alarm clock in the morning. I go to my bedroom, and the USB cable is gone. The plug is there, but the USB cable is gone. I never touched that cable. The cable never went anywhere. And to make matters even more strange, there was a song by Peter Gabriel on my computer called The Intruder, which I thought was very unusual. So now I'm dealing with this whole idea that something happened with this plug in a way that I don't even want to be begin to contemplate. But that's the world we're living in, and it definitely impacted my night as a result. We're going to get into some disclosure stuff here. I don't do a lot of alien material on this show. I used to be very, 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 very into aliens when I was young, like high school. Like, I was very into aliens. Junior high school, I did Eric von Däniken ancient astronaut-styled presentations for my 8th grade peers. This is back in 1973. So, that said, I let go of a lot of the alien stuff in the 90s. The early 90s I thought was a very interesting time in terms of the abduction piece with John Mack and Woodley Strieber. There was a lot of really good material coming out at that time. I actually did an interview with a fellow back in the early 80s, which I've actually played on this show before, who was an abductee and an experiencer, and he was a very unusual guy. He looked unusual. He had a kind of a profound intelligence and level of creativity about him. He was also gay, and was very clear about the types of experiences he had with UFOs and the abductions. So there was actually, kind of an area of interest in my life. I even met Colonel Wayne Aho, who was the sort of the J. Allen Hynek, on a positive side, though, of UFO research in Washington State. I met him and had a fair amount of correspondence with him for a while. And it's funny, because when I was talking with Wayne, I don't think Wayne's around anymore. It was a long time ago. But when I was talking with Wayne, I was telling him about Bill Cooper, because I was also discovering Bill Cooper then. This was 1989, 1990. And he said, "You've got to be careful with him." I really said, "Yes, you need to be careful with him. He's not trustworthy. He drinks too much." Okay, that's good to know. So eventually, though, my interest in UFOs and the whole disclosure thing kind of waned over time, because I felt like in a lot of ways it was becoming a distraction, that it was one of these things that was being held up for us to look at while there was any number of other things going on that really needed more of our attention. That and the fact that a lot of people were looking at the UFO experience and the extraterrestrials as saviors, and I've never really thought of them as saviors. Never really thought that they would come down and straighten us all up, because if they were, they'd be here by now. Okay? They would have. And maybe they are, maybe that's why we're here and we're not completely in chains. But I would tend to think that that we are the ones that need to save our own asses. And if we get to a point where it looks like we're doing a pretty good job of it, if there are aliens, then they will come in and help us out. And I do believe in aliens, don't get me wrong. I do. I believe in the whole alien trip and the Orions and the Sirians and the Pleiadians, the Arcturians, the Andromedans. I'm there. I have no issue with any of it. But I just think that for me, as a kind of a political platform, it just wasn't working for me, and I decided to focus my energies elsewhere. Now, there are people that believe that if you get into the whole disclosure piece, then everything else begins to untangle itself, right? You get into disclosure, then you get into human origin, then you get into the junk DNA, then you get into how history and time have been manipulated, then you get into the whole good guys, bad guys, Greys, reptilians, the Nordics, it all starts to come out. Maybe you get into alternative technology, secret technology, stealth technology, black technology, whatever you want to call it. The neck comes out, and we get a few trinkets and a few bones, and the next thing you know, we're living the high life with a little bit of, uplift from our space brothers, and maybe just enough to give us the sense that they're being generous, while at the same time they're rapidly fitting us with velvet handcuffs of some sort or another. So the reason I'm bringing this up, though, right now today is because, well, there's a couple of things going on simultaneously. One of the things that I want to do is I want to read you the latest dispatch from Cliff High, and hopefully we can circle back and look at the whole disclosure piece through what Cliff has written, and it might shed some interesting light on it. So let me read this. This is called Gnawing on Time. That's Gnawing, Gnawing on Time. With respect, a bit of advice. Disturbing days are just ahead. As the planetary fiscal financial infrastructure melts down, the powers that be will push the various elements of GUS, Government of the United States, we call it Government of the United States of America, a corporation chartered illegally by Congress in 1877, to react badly. How you react to these disturbing days is entirely up to you. The advice: do not be goaded into reactions that your enemies may desire. During such times of social stress, my personal motto serves well to remind me that harmonization with the universe provides the greatest potential for success. I am a dog who gnaws his bone. I sit here in my repose, gnawing alone. There will come a day, which is not yet, when I will bite him by whom I am bit. As Sun Tzu notes, if your enemy knows you better than you know yourself, they have already won. So the admonition to know thyself has never been so timely. The disturbing days ahead are the beginning of real-time challenge as our solar system and our world changes under our feet. There's a quote there. Many humans will run around losing their minds in various and unsettling ways. Avoid being in their path or engaging with their insanity. You will not be able to aid them if you do not first secure your own future. Many humans will insist on leaving corporeal Earth at this time. Endeavor to not be caught up in their departing, as they may insist on going in crowds. Within my heart, chosen arts Aikido, the first for my personal harmonization of the four principles is extend key, the extension of personal life energy, key out to your partner. In the contention, they will enemy. Always want to sense the motions of the encounter, such that when your partner strikes, you are simply not there. The sum total of my advice comes down to the idea: extend key and work harmoniously with the universe to be simply not there. So what Cliff is essentially saying in this bit of almost a Zen-like post is, get ready because shit's going to get weird. And it's going to get ugly, and we are entering into a major, what I would call a mega point. And that omega point, people think it's going to be over the course of the next six days. There are reports out there. If you go to the website American Holocaust, you'll be able to read about what one Navy SEAL talked about as the potential of dirty nukes going off across America to start a false flag event. That's a real possibility, but we're talking about it. And when we talk about it and we put it out there, it doesn't always show up the way that is being created or crafted. It may show up in a very different way that we don't know or we don't understand. We can't necessarily call. Although I will say that the nuke piece is looming pretty large because of the square between Pluto and Uranus, which is really going to be on time on May 20th. So it's 5:20, and I think that that's really, it's the days before, I'd say about a week before and a week after This is a major period. We're just coming out of this intense cycle now. With we're here, I guess it's Walpurgis Nacht coming up very soon, on the eve of May Day, and we're almost through this intensity. But there's another layer of intensity that's coming our way that is purely astrological, and it's the first of the two big squares this year, with Uranus and Pluto at 11 degrees apiece. So where does disclosure enter into all of this? Imagine that we have a world right now where the economy of the planet, based on the charade that it's been created with, that economy is dangerously close to teetering right off the edge. We have that piece. It's a big piece. We have in the United States this ongoing saga and a very strange story about the Tsarnaev brothers and what happened in Boston. These are very, very strange times we're living in. There's multiple stories, multiple threads. There's the uncle, Ruslan Sarny. Then there's the Misha, and there's the Misha, the Albanian. And all of a sudden now, there's a Bourne film that's being created right before our very eyes. And I was sent something last night by Erica, and there's this whole very strange connection with the wife of Tamerlane Tsarnaev, who's connected to one of the most powerful families on the planet, the Russell family. And if you've ever read the Fritz Springmeier book with Cisco Wheeler, they talk about the families, the Illuminati families, and Russell is one of those families. And she apparently has some major connections. Ruslan Sarny, the uncle, was married to the daughter of a major operative and banking official. I mean, that guy is connected. So now all of a sudden, we're seeing some very strange connections and relationships that are on the alternative tip. On the non-alternative tip, there's this whole story and fiction, whatever it is, that's evolving about the Chechens, and this is absolutely crazy what we're seeing. It's not going away anytime soon. And apparently, if we can believe the press, Dzhokhar Tsarnaev is in a very small cell with a very, very big, thick steel door. There's no way they're going to let him talk to anybody. Of course, he can't talk now anyway because he doesn't have a larynx. But he can't write. That's not going away. It's only going to continue to foment. If you followed my Facebook page, yesterday I put a link to Commissioner of Police, Ed Davis in Boston, who says that what we really need now is more drones and more cameras, especially at events like the Boston Marathon. And people are hailing this guy as being some kind of public servant savior. They want him to run for governor. They want him to run for mayor. I mean, it's amazing what people will do and what they'll project onto people because of what they need, what they desire, what they have to have in their lives in order to feel safe and secure. So we've got all these things going on. Let's throw the disclosure piece into the hopper and crank that around. I got an email from somebody, one of my readers, and it was a link to a David Wilcock piece on Cosmogenesis' website about disclosure. And people have been sending me links to the movie Sirius and other related materials. So it seems to be kind of bubbling up right now. And I have a few things to say about both of them. Let me start with the David Wilcock piece. I think David Wilcock is brilliant. And I'm on the record. He's brilliant. I've seen some of his talks. The guy is very, very sharp, and he actually knows his science. And that's apart from what I think of David Wilcock as a prophet or a social visionary, or even for lack of a better term, an indigo Paul Revere. I've lost my faith in David Wilcock a long time ago along these lines. He has predicted a number of things that have not manifested. He had the Drake disaster, absolute disaster with Drake and Benjamin Fulford. His 2012 prediction did not manifest, and you can spin it any way you want as to the reason why or what did, but the bottom line is it didn't happen in that way. So anything that David Wilcock brings to the table, I take with a grain of salt. Now, Cliff has had his hits and his misses too. He's had more hits and misses, and I would tend to think that also what Cliff does is he sheds light, or he casts light on these events that are potentially going to happen, so that as we put our attention there, we have the potential of shifting those events. But now with David Wilcock talking about disclosure, we've got the Stephen Greer film, and I think that there's a very good chance that we are very close to it. However, and this is the caveat, it may not look like what you think. And who they say is going to be an alien may not actually really be truly an alien. So again, we have to use some layer of discretion and discernment, and not just fall for whatever spectacle is being paraded before us. That's extremely important. It's funny, I was on Facebook last night, and there's a friend, he's not a good friend, he's a guy that I like. We used to live in the same town. And he has kids, and I have kids, and then we see things different politically. And I've known his wife since the 90s, great woman. And so we see things different politically, so we have different takes on things, which means we have different friends, too. And last night, he had one of his friends essentially dissing Jay Weidner. And he knew nothing about Jay. He knew nothing about his work. He was just offhandedly laughing over the fact that, that there was this conspiracy theory in Kubrick's movies. And I got really kind of upset with the guy, because he wasn't necessarily taking time to actually even understand what Jay was talking about. And I guess what I'm trying to get at here is that I don't think we can. There are two things around this. One is we can't jump to conclusions. That's number one. And number two, and this is the toughest part, because we always seem to get drawn in emotionally. We are emotional beings. We're not robots yet. We're not zombies yet. So we get drawn into these things emotionally, and we all have our causes. We all have things that we believe in. We all have things that we think are true. And to the best of our ability, we need to test those things all the time, just to make sure that they remain so. And if they don't, then we need to really look at it and say, do I need to hold on to this? And if somebody has a different idea, I think at that point, it's probably not worth engaging with them. That's my take. I mean, you can dialogue, you can go back and forth, but we're at a different point now. We could have had those discussions 10 years ago, and they might have been meaningful, but I think now we're at a different place, and what we need to do now is not necessarily bang the drum and try to wake people up every day of the week, 24/7, although some of us do, because it's kind of vocation. But in our personal lives, I don't think we necessarily have to do that. Because what we have to do now, what is important now? I'll put that out to you. What is important now? You don't have to call in. Just think about it. If you're in the chat room, think about it. Chat amongst yourself. What's important now? What do you need to do now? What do you need to do today to live your life and make it a better place? Whatever it is, however it is. How can you share? Who can you share it with? What can you share? Because sharing at the level that we can right now is precious. I'm telling you that right now. It's absolutely precious. And you'll see more about this the days and the weeks and the months that move on here. Probably weeks, because it's pretty close. That's my sense. I just ran across this piece today about Texas, of all places, and it's on a website called Investment Watch. And apparently, Texas is starting to make its own money. How about that? Let's see what we have here. Yeah, they're minting its own money. And I think they're probably going to be based on silver rounds, or something like that. Texas, I'm going to tell you right now, is a big pain in the ass. A big pain in the ass for the people that want to turn America into North America, Canada, Mexico, into something that's the equivalent of the North American Trade Union, or the North American Union, the NAU. Texas is a big stumbling block. There's a lot of people here. I've been here now for 6 months. Not only are there a lot of people, even here in Austin, which is considered the Berkeley in some ways, or the Ann Arbor of Texas, people here are still very strong-willed. And they still have this kind of Texan spirit, no matter what their political stripe is. And by the way, there's a major, I think Smith & Wesson is moving to Texas. They're getting kicked out of the Northeast, so they're moving to Texas. So a arms manufacturer is moving here. And there are a lot of people with guns here in Texas. And you basically have I think a governor that is kind of wising up to the system after he look, I'm not a huge Rick Perry fan. I think the guy is kind of out there. But then again, look at me. I'm calling the kettle black. But I think he got wise to what was going on when he ran for president and saw what was happening firsthand. And I also think that Perry might be a Mormon. I'm not completely sure about that, but we'll find out at some point. Somebody in the chat room thinks he's a Mormon or knows he's a Mormon. Maybe Athena knows that. I think maybe that's where we heard it from, Athena. He was a Mormon. Okay, so here's what I'm doing. I'm plugging my phone in right now. And my phone is dying. It's the one cord that I can still find. It's an interesting way to do a show. By the way, I was on the Vinny Eastwood show on Friday. You can go to YouTube and you hear me talk to Vinny. It was a fun experience. He's a nice guy, very good guy. He enjoys what he does. And I can tell you right now, Vinny Eastwood is not Perez Hilton. Okay, Ed Chiarini was going on and on about how Vinny Eastwood is Perez Hilton. That guy's not Perez Hilton, not even close. And this was when I had Max Egan on the show, and Ed was saying that Max was the husband of Sarah Silverman, some producer, some Hollywood producer, and that's not even the case at all. People have been to Max's house, and the outback in Australia, he basically lives in a shack. It's a nice shack, but he lives in a shack. So I can attest to the fact that Eastwood is not wearing makeup and pretending to be Perez Hilton. Nice guy, listen to his radio show, happens all the time. He's got some interesting guests on there. And one of the things that Vinny did during his show, which frankly I don't probably do enough, is he asked people to be able to donate and support the radio program. So I'm putting that out there here at the bottom of the hour. If you want to continue to hear my radio show and have me do what I do, then you can go to my website, robertphoenix.com, and you can donate. Some of you already have. I really appreciate the ones that have. If you haven't, feel free to put a little money in the kitty so I can keep the lights on and keep the guests coming. On Friday, I'm going to have Tom Palladino back on. We're going to be talking about the scalar energy healing, and I'll be giving him my synopsis and feedback over being on it for over 3 weeks now. And then I think we're going to have a fellow by the name of Philip Proffer on the show. He's a Facebook friend, but he's also more than a Facebook friend. He's also very into alternative technology on the water side of things. So we're going to get into water on Friday's show. It should be with the Jupiter coming into Cancer here pretty soon. Should be a very good show to have and experience and learn more about the breakthroughs and advancements of purification of water. The greatest resource on the planet, hands down, bar none, water. More precious than gold, more precious than silver. Water is the deal. You can go without eating for about 30 days. You can't go without water for more than 3, okay? So keep that in mind. And as we hurtle towards this point in the event horizon, this omega point, which is coming, it's going to be staring us right in the face. Okay, so what I want to do right now is I want to play some music, and I'll come back and we can talk a little bit more about disclosure and what that might look like. But in the meantime, what do I want to play? Let's see. How about How about Michael Lee Hill, testing 1, 2, 3. Let's have a little guitar pyrotechnics to kick some ass here and kickstart our week ahead. Michael Lee Hill, testing 1, 2, 3. I'll be back in 3 minutes and 19 seconds.
Before I bring him on, again, I want to try to give him a bit of a wind-up here. He is in...
Whoops. That was the wrong Michael Lee Hill, wasn't it? Here we go. Let's try this again. Testing. 1, 2, 3. The right file. It's Monday. Please forgive me. So I don't know what happened to the file. This is one of the reasons why I'm looking forward to having my own platform, my own delivery system, my own pipeline, and my own server, and that day is coming soon, sooner than you think. All right, that was Michael Lee Hill, who is, according to Michael, Eric Clapton's son, and according to other people who are guitar aficionados after listening to that track, they would wholeheartedly agree with that. Testing 1, 2, 3. Okay, so let's get back into the disclosure thing a little bit here. This is from the Calgary Herald, and this is some of the information now that's coming forward. We're getting primed here for something about to take place. So here, this is from the Calgary Herald. Belief in UFOs is an inalienable right. This is by Alan Abel. Okay. Looks like an alien himself, by the way. Why is Lester B. Pearson's 89-year-old former Minister of National Defense coming to Washington next week to testify before a make-believe congressional hearing as to the existence and multiple visits to Earth of little green men, not to mention tall white dudes from outer space? Because this is the third most important issue facing humankind after global warming and changing the monetary system, says Paul Hellyer. That should give you an idea as to what is about to come down, just by that sentence alone. After global warming and changing the monetary system. Why? Because the benevolent aliens will help fend off global warming and help us with a new monetary system. It is the eve of what is being called the citizen hearing on disclosure, an extraterrestrial presence engaging the human race. Tagline, if Congress won't do its job, the people will. Hellyer, the former liberal Tory and independent MP who first sat in Parliament in 1949, will be arguing, hardly for the first time, that, as he tells me by phone from his home in Toronto, not only has ET been here, there have been more than one species. In fact, there are several species. There's been collaboration between one or more of them with the U.S. government and the U.S. Defense Department. They've been sharing technology, some of which they wouldn't want the public to know about. Not only anti-gravity machines, but also diabolical weapons. So many things that will affect the future of humankind. Why didn't you ask them about this when you were Minister of National Defense? I asked. Never heard about this at that time, he answers. Alien intelligence, Hellyer says, is like a scroll that opens up in both directions. It has no end. It goes on and on. There are people from other dimensions, too. A lot of them have visited Earth, and they still do. Some of them look very much like us. The species we call the tall whites have been seen shopping in Las Vegas. Well, that will legitimize the movement. Hellyer is not alone in his certainty that we are not alone. Last month, a polling firm in North Carolina sampled 1,000 Americans on various ultra subjects and discovered that 21% agreed that a UFO crash at Roswell, New Mexico in 1947 was covered up by the U.S. government, and that 29% concur with the rather amorphous proposition that aliens exist. The citizen hearing on disclosure, etc., is going to occupy 5 full days, starting at Monday, that's today, at the National Press Club, whose windows overlook the grounds of the White House, to which the debonair alien Klaatu and the indestructible robot Gort came in peace, and were summarily blasted with machine guns and flamethrowers by the U.S. Army in the day the Earth stood still. Hellyer and dozens of other witnesses will present their opinions and their evidence to 5 former members of the House of Representatives, plus ex-Senator Mike Gravel of Alaska, the iconoclast Democrat who made a bid for the White House in 2008, but whose support never reached what the experts call statistical zero. Mike Gravel was an interesting guy. He was probably the most, how would I describe him? I wouldn't describe him as the most Republican Democrat. I would describe him as probably the most libertarian Democrat. And he's 82 years old. He's from Springfield. He was the senator from Alaska. He went to Columbia University and also American International College. He is a libertarian now. He did change his stripes. So he just found his true self. When they invited me to take part in this hearing, I told them very candidly that I'm somewhat skeptical about some of the areas that are involved in this. Gravel tells me from his California residence that was not a showstopper for them. Gravel, who is 83 and the son of immigrant Quebecois, I have relatives in Canada, more relatives in Canada and the United States, but they're dying, promises that his role in the hearing will be that of an impartial auditor. At my age, I can't ski or play tennis anymore. The two-term senator says all I can do is acquire information. From my point of view, he reasons the number of UFO sightings would indicate that even if the numbers are exaggerated, they should be examined and reported to the public. France, Canada, and a few others have revealed all the information that they have. The exception to the rule is the U.S. government. This canard that the American public would panic if there's anything proven is ridiculous. The people are mature. They understand that there are many facets of life that are unexplainable, and this is one of them. Are there little green men? I don't know. We'll see what the testimony is. What would change in our lives if they really do exist? I ask Gravel. Nothing, he replies. Nothing. People would be satisfied that there are unexplained events, but that's not unusual. The whole belief in God is empirically unproven. Yet we accept that. Both Gravel and Hellier agree that the United Nations should be involved in any further venture into intergalactic affairs. The path has been trod in 1970. Eric Yari of Grenada beseeched the UN General Assembly. Why should man be precluded from information on UFOs? A matter of great interest and importance to man. While at the same time, he has fed so many trivialities which can contribute nothing to his personal enrichment. But while Gary was meeting with Secretary General Kurt Waldheim in New York, he was overthrown by a leftist coup at home. Damn those leftist coups. Hellier adamantly does not believe that proof of extraterrestrial visitation would provoke, as Gravel says, nothing. The ramifications are enormous, Hellier affirms. The question is, what's the end game as far as the people are concerned who have the knowledge and are doing engineering, building the machines that aliens showed them that will blow your mind away? If the United States is doing these things, then Russia and China know about it and are doing the same thing. These are big issues, especially when people are starving. Is this what you want to be remembered for, I ask? No, he answers. I'd like to be remembered for changing the banking and financial system of the world. I guess you could say the secrecy is about equal. Have aliens conquered death? I wonder. Some of the species lived 900 years, Hellier replies. If you read about Methuselah in the Bible, there might have been some of them around too. Personally, I have no desire to live 900 years. I have no desire to even live 100. If you do make it to 100, will you run for your old seat in Parliament? I ask the seeker of truths. Funny you should ask that, Hellier says. In one of my dreams recently, I saw myself dabbling in politics again. When I woke up, I realized that I'm really too old for that kind of strenuous living. So this is an interesting story. It's posted just recently, actually 3 days ago. The disclosures are happening right now in Washington, the faux disclosure. So they're having this thing going on, but it's not a real thing, but it's a thing. And people are bringing their testimony, and it's interesting because it's all seems to be snowballing right around the same time. And if you look at the language, though, and you look at what's being talked about, it definitely has a one-world feel to it. The UN is being asked to participate and be a part of this. There's some mention of global warming and monetary reform. And it's all tied together in this one world nexus. And this is one of the challenges with disclosure. What will they do with the information? How will they shift and move what we call reality? And will it have our best interests at heart? I tend to think not. That's just one man's opinion, one man in the wilderness. That's my opinion. So we have that cooking, and we have a number of other things cooking. It's going to be a cooking May. Get out your weenies, get out your burgers, get out your chicken and your ribs, put them on the sticks, put them over the barbecue. It's going to get hot, and things are going to really heat up. So, when things get hot, you may as well have a barbecue. That's my motto. Okay, so here's what's happening on Wednesday. I'm going to have Sandra Sinar on. I think she'll be available. She's a Facebook friend. She's a very good astrologer, extremely good astrologer, and super bright and knows a lot of interesting stuff. So I'm going to bring her on, and she's actually going to be hosting Fritz Springmeier in Arkansas, where she lives. And I think it's Arkansas. It's either Arkansas or Tennessee. It might be Tennessee. We'll find out. But she's going to be hosting Fritz Springmeier, and Fritz is going to be doing a seminar on his bloodline work and kind of what's happening in the world. I was on Facebook last night. Please forgive me if I offended you. But I was on Facebook last night, and there was Fritz Springmeier holding a copy of Freeman's new book, Weird Stuff. And I'm pretty convinced that guy holding that book is not Fritz Springmeier. I'm sorry. Fritz Springmeier is close to 60 years old, and this guy looked like he was in his early 40s, late 30s, and I don't know. It didn't feel Fritz Springmeier-like. I could be wrong, but I put up a picture, a contrast and comparison between the current model and the one that was put in 1955. Make up your own mind, be your own judge. So, yeah, Sandra on Wednesday, and on Friday, Tom Palladino and Philip Proffer. We get into some healing on Friday. Got to keep the healing vibe up. Okay, that does it for today. I want to thank everybody for hanging in there while I sorted out my problems with Skype. Couldn't get on today for whatever reason. Didn't recognize that I had Skype loaded. But where there's a will, an Android phone, there is a way. And today we found it, and today I thank you for finding this show on Monday and finding this show on Wednesday and finding this show on Friday. And hopefully more to come in the future, in the not-so-distant future. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. I'm working with somebody now to help me on some production, meaning lining up more guests, because when I go to a 5-day format, there's going to be more guests. And that's good for you. There's more information and more goodies for you to absorb and digest. And also probably going at some point to a 2-way video format. And that's in the future. Okay, that's it, boys and girls. Thank you for showing up. You know the drill. Use your head to discern what's real. Your heart, 2 step and what's possible. And if you, like I said, if you were on Facebook last night, thank you for putting up with me. It was a challenging night, very challenging night. I'll see you all on Wednesday for Navigating the Astrological Matrix. We'll talk about the upcoming T-Square with Sandra Sinar from the southern portion of the United States of America. We get into some really good astrology. I'll see you all then. Take care.
We are living in a computer-programmed reality, and the only clue we have to it is when some variable is changed and some alteration in our reality occurs. We would have the overwhelming impression that we were reliving the present, déjà vu, perhaps in precisely the same way, hearing the same words, saying the same words, I submit that these impressions are valid and significant, and I will even say this. Such an impression is a clue that at some past time point, a variable was changed, reprogrammed as it were, and that because of this, an alternative world branched off.